the fader, it'll make the effect happen. As you bring the fader down, it'll either slow it down or fade out the effect. So once again, if I have all my lights on here, they're being told in one fader just to be on, but if I lift this fader up, it's going to override the other ones and put the chase in. The next thing I need to write about is what's called a flicker chase. This has gone on since the Very Light days. This is when you want the lights to look like they're dancing, but not going all the way off. If I start at 70% instead of full, and then I go into open effect, I go into my effects engine and I tell them again to go on to it's just a sine wave, for instance. What I don't want to do is have them go all the way out. So if you see here, they're going from, say, 50% to 100%, depending on the size. If I make the size big, they'll go all the way out, but I don't want them to. So I'm going to take it till I see them go to about half and start to douse. Then again, I will fan the effect. And now if you notice, it just looks like the lights are flickering, especially if I go faster. In real life, it would be easier to see than on a visualizer trying to keep up with your eye. But you'll notice they're not going out, they're just flickering. I will then store that in the same manner as the intensity chase. And once again, I will make this option one of those crossfade, IPCB crossfader. So now if I have these lights up and I bring this up, I'm flickering for a second, and then when the music slows down, we just bring everything back up again. So now that I've got intensities and everything here, what I like to do is come over here and bring up different focus positions. Now, my front lights, for my position, I like to always keep them in the band. Sometimes you might want to use them to ballyhoo an audience, which is effective, but I have enough lights in the back to do that. So to me, I designate the front wash almost all the time just to light scenery or to light the band members. So for this particular show, there is no scenery other than a backdrop, which we will get to, and I'll probably get around to that later. So I'm going to park them on the band at full. Now I'm going to take my rear beams here. I'm going to turn them on. I'm going to put them in a fan. Okay, that's beautiful. Now I'm going to take the floor beams, turn them on. I'm also going to put them in a fan, something that's out, or an XXX. Just by adding a couple little lights to the end, I've now filled out my eyes and made the stage twice as big as it is. Next, I need to still light the band, so I'm going to go and grab my hard edge lights, which are my studio spots. I'll turn them on, and I'm going to go to the band. Now that I have all that, I'm going to record that into a fader here. We'll start with number 1. And I'm going to call this fan wash. That's because my wash lights are in one position and that's in another. I'm also going to go in here and tell it to go and off 0, because the minute I bring this up, I want the lights to move and come in. Now, on the same fader, you can stack more than one cue. There's no reason to have only one cue on there. What I normally do is I'm going to copy Q1 at Q2 in this fader. We'll just rewrite it again, where I take the rear beams and the floor beams and the spots at full, but I'm going to take the rear beams and I'm going to go to a cross focus, which is the opposite of those lights going this way. So at first I have a fan, and then I want a 2-second like that move. I'm going to record that into 2. Which is the second cue on this fader. So some lights are moving, some aren't. I said, oh, okay, I look at this and I go, well, that looks great, but the floor lights aren't moving. So in Q2 here, I'm going to take my floor beams and just put them in another focus so they move out. If I merge that into record Q2, enter, merge. Now every time I bring this down and up, my lights will move to a new focus. Or I hit the go button, they'll just move to a new focus. Okay, well for in this case, we're just going to hit this flash button up, this go button up top, and you can see the wash lights are moving, but I'm always lighting the band with the other lights. On a cross of that, what I'm going to do is the opposite with the hard edge lights. If I were to release everything from here and start over into the next fader, I'm going to take my front beams again, I'm going to put them on the band. I have to. But the rear beams this time that were in fan focuses before, I'm going to put them on the band too. I generally try to keep the band lit evenly with 2 lights on each guy. There's 2 reasons for that. Number one, this is the same candle power, the same amount of lights on each guy, which is important because many events have IMAG, image magnification, where there's projectors on the screens. If one guy has 1 light on him and one guy has 4 lights on him, chances are the camera's only going to see the guy with 4 lights on him because he'll be so much brighter than everybody else, the iris will close. So if you keep an even balance on everybody like this, it's good. So now that I've done that, the floor beams, which are my eye candy again, I throw them in any particular focus I want again. Crisscross them like that. But now I take my spots and I turn them on, and I'll go to something, say aerial, like a high focus. That'll work good at times. But for this one, we'll go back to an XXX focus here. We're going to record that here. And then what I usually do is just put those lights right into another focus, like fan, and record it right on top of the same fader. So now again, I've got 2 cues here. This fader will not do anything till I give it an option. So I'm going to go to options again, and I'm going to tell it to be a flash, to go on the flash, and I'm going to tell the fader to go when off 0. So now I have 2 faders. If I hit this one and I hit it again, only my hard edge lights are moving back and forth to different focus positions. But if I hit the fader next to it, they'll all move because I have all the lights in different positions. If you notice here, everything's moving if I go from fader 1 to fader 2. If I stay on the same fader, only one set of lights will move and half of them will stay the same. The only constant in everything is my front light, because if I move that and constantly move them, then the people in the band will turn black for an instance till the light hits them again. And once again, if they were running around and moving, then I would just bring up my Fresnels here to be able to catch them in wherever they are. So if I took my rear beams at full and I put them in an XXX focus, that's great. But I still need this, and just for the easiest way to teach them away is I'm going to make them magenta right now. Then I take my spots and I'm going to put them on the band. Turn them on, and I'm going to make those cyan, just so you can see the difference in lights there. I'm going to record that into this cue right now. I normally would never put the color in here, but I'm just doing it to show you what I'm doing. Now on top of this, I would say, okay, on the next top of that fader, I'm going to take the spots off the band, go into my XXX focus. But at the same time, I'll take the rear lights to the band, because I'm following Nook's unwritten rule of always light the money. We're going to record that on top of here. So now, every time I hit this cue, I have everything moving, but there's always a light on the band, even if they're 2 different colors. And if there isn't, it's only for a second, and nobody will notice it. But anytime you're changing from a verse to a chorus and you need a little movement to say, hey, we're going to take the song up a step, a little 2-second movement adds to everything. Okay, so I have 3 basic focuses here that would work for everything. And I'm just going to delete that last cue because I don't want any color in here. So once again, we'll go over this, and I'll take the front beams at full, and I'm going to put them on the band. Then I'm going to take the rear beams, I'm going to put them in the fan focus at full. Pig release, we'll get the colors out. I will take the spots at full, I'll put them on the band. And I will take the floor lights that are doing nothing at the time and just put them in some kind of focus that matters. Fan will work good. I record that into my other fader here. Record Q1, enter, replace. And then if I take the rear lights or take the floor beams to straight, take the rear beams to the band, and take the spots or hard edge to a fan, I'm going to record Q2. In this case, I'm replacing. Once again, if I bring this up and nothing happens, it's because I forgot to set my options on the fader to going off 0. Now there we go, 2 seconds on time. Anytime I bring any fader up here, some lights are going to move. I don't know where, but to be honest, it's not that important. The most important thing is you're getting a movement out of the whole deal. There's a couple other things I like to do. Every show you do at some point, whether it's Kenny Loggins or Beyonce, they're going to want to have some light in the audience because there'll be a part where they stop and everybody's going like this and they're singing with the pop star. So the most important thing to be able to do there is always light the band, but light the audience in 2 different places. I'll take the front beams and the rear beams and the floor beams at full on the band. Excuse me while this goes out. But I'm going to take the spots at full and I'm going to put them on the audience. Then I'm going to record this into another focus here. And I'm just going to call it odd. That means anytime I go out to light the audience, I'm going to send the lights out there too. But then I'll look up here and go, oh, I've never told the floor beams to go anywhere. I better throw them somewhere out there to light the room as well. I'm going to record that into Q1 as well. Then I'm going to go into here and I have to label all this stuff as I haven't been doing. You should always label your stuff as you go. In this case, the list. I have to tell that, otherwise I'll come back and not know what any of it is. This is my audience cue. I go back to cue list number 12, and that was just a band XXX focus. So I'm just going to call that band XXX. And the first one here, 11, was called hard edge or spots XXX. Always tell it to going off 0. So when I bring the fader up. The other thing is at the end of songs, it's very important for a dramatic ending usually. I usually take a 4-second move that throws a certain amount of lights up through the audience to the heavens. That's usually a good thing to do on the last cue of a song, and I call it the high fly. So what I will normally do at this case is grab, let's go pig release here for a second to get rid of everything. I will leave my front beams at full on the band because I don't want them to be in the dark yet. But I will take the spots and the rear beams at full. I will put them in a high focus, which is just pretty much tilting them straight up as high as they go. I will also then take the floor lights at full and put them in a high focus, which is like that because no matter where they go, there has to be some movement to make it dramatic. I put that into a fader. However, this fader I normally make 4 seconds long. The reason is at the end, it's dramatic, and I just want a nice, even, beautiful rock peel up. So this one here will be the high focus. Now, just as much as it looks good at the end of the song, it's great to start the next one with them being high and coming down. So if I call this high now, I might start the next song, activate this cue so they're high, but on the first cue, I bring this up, and I see the lights fly into place. It's another great dramatic scene stealer. Okay, this is enough practical lights for me to punt any show with static focus positions. I have 6 positions in the first 3 faders that I can go to that are just static positions that take the lights somewhere where they stop. Or I have my audience fly, and my high fly. Next we have the movements. Now, I normally try to do what I call a stage ballet and an audience ballet. The first thing we do is the stage ballet. At any time, I want the lights to go all around everybody on stage. Again, I'm going to take the front beams, turn them on, but I'm going to leave them on the band as soon as I can close that window and find the band. I really don't want, if the front lights are balleting, then I'm leaving band members in the dark and lights sweeping across their face, which really isn't a big thing unless there's image magnification again. Then the cameras will see faces coming in and out, black and white, and they don't like that. That's an unwritten rule that you don't do that. So instead, I'm going to take all the other lights that I have behind there, and I'm going to take the front beams off for a second so we can see the other ones, and I'm going to put them in a straight focus. Then the easiest effect, because every console in the world